Hey, thanks for checking out Dear Kev, episode 4, I believe, or 3, 4 if you count the introductory episode. This week's going to be about, I take that back, I'm not just going to be a weekly thing, or it'll be whenever I feel like it, or daily, or what. But this episode 4, is going to be about Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs. Kevin Smith's podcast about Frasier Reconsidered. It's him and Matt Myra. They're both on Twitter. Check it out. It's very good. So in the previous videos, I've mentioned that I've been drinking and watching Kevin Smith's commentaries of the Frasier episodes on Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs, his podcast. It's getting pretty late. It's like 6, 7 in the morning. I'm off all week, which is why I'm doing this in the first place, because I have a week off from my shitty convenience store job. And I want to, reinvigorate myself and redefine my life and move forward. And the way I'm doing that is with this, which is the Dear Kevin series. So, since I've talked about it in all the previous episodes and how I've been drinking, I thought I'd finally talk about Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs, which messes with my continuity because I was going to go in order of Kevin Smith's achievements. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. Let me talk about Frasier first. Love that show. I watched it back in the day on local KSAT 12, San Antonio's Fox affiliate, and it was always on right after The Simpsons. And I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons for a while. My mother wouldn't let me. But eventually I did, but I did watch Frasier for quite a long time. When I was growing up, it was all about the Daphne Niles of it all. And I decided to finally watch all of it when it went on Netflix. No, I take that back. Before Netflix, I actually rented the seasons, the DVD box sets from the library, and some of them were scratched or broken. Never finished it, and I finally watched all of it, the entire series, a couple years ago when I was in Los Angeles. And now that I'm an adult, 27, I don't know. Seems like there's a lot of life left. My take on the whole Frasier series is, yeah, okay, Daphne and Niles is great, but it's the Frasier arc that speaks to me the most. I love that the episode at the beginning, the pilot, The Good Son, we find Frasier moving to a new city, starting his life over. I don't know why I would relate to that after moving to Los Angeles, but I did. And 11 seasons later, he's still without a wife, still without a future, working the same job. No significant changes for him. And at the end of the series, in the finale, Goodnight Seattle Part 2, we find Frasier, spoilers, leaving Seattle in the hopes of tracking down what could be the next love of his life, or the final love of his life, played by Laura Linney. So the arc of the show, the Frasier arc of the show, which is a man trying to make sense of his life and find worth in his life, I thought that was brilliant. And I love the show. The writing's spectacular. It's all farce. Well, it's not all farce. It's mostly farce and, French bedroom comedy and lots of entrances and exits and ill-timed coincidences and misunderstandings. But the cast is phenomenal. I believe David Hyde Pierce has won 11 Emmys, which means every single season he won Best Supporting Actor for Niles Crane. Daphne Moon, what's her name? Perry Gilpin plays Roz, also wonderful. Alright, I'm too drunk to remember their names, I'm sorry. But, Martin, Niles, Frasier, Daphne, and Roz are the core cast. They're all spectacularly talented people. Martin in particular makes me laugh the most, I think. Because he kind of gets the cush job of just hanging out in the background, and he gets to come in just for the punchline in most episodes. He sits there in his recliner and watches his idiot sons do stupid things, and he has 7 lines per episode, and 3 of them are set up, and the other 4 are all punchlines. That's lovely. So I've loved Frasier for quite some time, and when Kevin and Matt started the podcast last year in 2015, I decided to watch it. Watch/listen to it. I'm about halfway through the first season. of Frasier, which means I'm about 10, 11 episodes in to the podcast. And I agree with, they mentioned, like, I haven't done any research on it, but like Kevin and Matt mentioned their detractors on the podcast. I tend to agree in as much as Kevin and Matt are fun together and their chemistry is great on the podcast. But I think that if they want to have a podcast where they want to, bitch about stuff, talk about bullshit, just do that, Smodcast Part 2, because it's still Smith and Matt this time. Oh no, Smith and Myra, it's even better. It's Smodcast 2. This is the Frasier show, so I wish that every episode was a little bit more Frasier-centric. Or I wish that, I wish there was an episode breakdown so I could kind of jump ahead. Or at least I used to. Now I have an N64, which is how I'm playing my my Pokemon. I've been playing Pokemon Blue on an N64 transfer pack in the controller. So I've been playing Pokemon Blue and listening to the podcast. Now I'm good. I have a visual distraction while they're talking about Terminator or God knows what. And when they talk about Frasier, I, stop what I'm doing and pay attention. They're both fun guys. I like the podcast a lot. They both clearly love the show. Matt Myra in particular, a guy I don't know from his other work. He seems to really love television and television writers and sitcoms. He said that Dick Van Dyke was a huge inspiration to him as a kid. I didn't watch it as a kid, but my mother loves that show, so as adolescence and semi-adulthood kicked in, I fallen in love with Dick Van Dyke and the whole idea of being a TV writer. And it's just a cool show. The podcast is a great podcast if you enjoy two dudes talking about whatever and being funny, and even more so if you also like Frasier, which I do. So I summed up my whole Frasier thoughts, and just to wrap that up, I like the idea that a show about a character who's been known for years on another show, Cheers in this case, that the show is not like, look at him be successful, or he's got a continuing love interest, or an on again, off again relationship, any of the sitcom stuff. I like that the real theme of Frasier seems to be life is complex, and we can figure it out together. Whether that's, you, the audience, or his core group of friends and families. Again, very Clerks-like, if you just keep working at it, and if you just find what you're good at and do it, and find a way to love yourself and love what you're doing, it's all going to be good. And I like that Frasier begins the series changing his life and ends the series changing his life. I think that that's very brave both times. It's very difficult to decide you're unhappy and then change it. Decide you're unhappy and then change your life to make yourself happy. So I love Frasier. I like the podcast a lot. I'll keep watching it. Perry Gilpin's episode, I haven't watched it yet, but she plays Roz Doyle. She'll be coming up as the guest on the podcast, like episode or two from where I'm at. I'm excited. I hope Kelsey Grammer shows up. # yay Kelsey Grammer. So, now I'm at the end of the video, or my end of my thoughts on Frasier and my thoughts of Talk Salad. So here's my Dear Kevin of it all. The title of the show. Dear Kevin, thank you for the podcast. It's lovely. I'm glad that you're celebrating something you love. That's a wonderful sentiment. You're celebrating writers and actors who have achieved success beyond what many do. It'd be lovely if you would do a similar thing for those who haven't necessarily achieved the same things. I know you have far-ranging tastes. In the comics world alone, I think it'd be interesting if you did a podcast dedicated to those in the comics world who should be household names. Beyond all that, I want to say, frequently you mention in Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs, when we're done with Frasier, we're doing news radio. I've been in love with news radio because of my mother, since long before I knew you. When I found out that you love news radio, it made me love you even more. But when you do the news radio podcast, which I don't have a title for, I guess I should come up with one because I should be clever and, Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs. I don't really have a news radio title for your podcast about news radio, but I want in. WNYX Presents. How about that for a podcast title? I fucking love news radio. I think season 5, the Bill McNeil season, where he's gone, will be a little rough because it's not very good. But please, if you ever see any of these videos, or if, through my own worth as a person and a writer and a filmmaker, if someday I get to meet you at club, meeting, whatever, you know, that's probably going to be one of the first things I say after thank you so much for what you've done for me, is going to be, also, could I please be on your KVRX, that's the Austin channel, WNYX podcast, your news radio podcast. I love those characters. I love that show. It's so funny. It's so brilliant. The way it's set up, the way it's staged, the fact that the arc of the show seems to be about, let's take a good, hard-working person and drive him insane. Like, the arc of the Dave character seems to be, I'm ambitious, I'm young, I'm talented, I have nothing but high hopes for my life and my career, and over 5 seasons they just drive that character flat out insane because of his co-workers and the nonsense of his job. So that's the first part of my Dear Kev. I want to be part of your news radio podcast. If that's even a remote possibility, I'd love to do that. Which is really the most selfish thing I've said so far, I think, in these videos. I want to sit there and smoke weed with you and talk about news radio. It's so fucking cool. Plus, you know Joe Rogan. He's been on Smodcast? I think he's been on Smodcast. So I know you've got at least one main cast member down to be a guest. So I want to be there and like meet Joe Rogan and news radio's so good. Okay. Second part of my Dear Kev, part 2, is this poster, which is also not Kevin Smith related, as the last video didn't have a Kevin Smith thing in the background. But I like this poster. Found it at Walmart or Target or something. It's just happenstance that the Batman hat I happen to own is over here. But I like the poster, so my question to you, Kevin, should you ever watch this video and want to comment or tweet about it, my question to you is, choose your ride? Question mark. We got all the Batmobiles so far. I mean, the new Zack Snyder, Ben Affleck Batmobile is not on here. I mean, it's kind of the Tumbler, but more beefed out. But this is the Choose Your Ride poster, and it's got, you know, the Tumbler, the Tim Burton Batman, the Batpod from Dark Knight, the the 90s animated series Batmobile, and the 60s Batmobile. For my money, I go Tim Burton's Batman. In all things, by the way, I think that's the best Batman movie. The first one. The first Tim Burton Batman movie. But just in terms of like iconic Batman imagery, if it had a bat on the hood, that'd be even cooler, like the bat face. But that is just the coolest silhouette here. This is the best Batmobile on this poster. The second best would be, I think, the elongated version of this car, which is the animated series version, the Paul Dini show, the Mark Hamill show, the Harley Quinn show. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video and this letter, spoken letter to you, Kevin Smith, with this question: which is your ride, sir? What would you like to ride the most on this poster? Sincerely, George. Meow. More drinking and Mario. I switched to Mario. I'm done with the Pokemon for the night. Anyway, I'm done. I'm gonna goodbye. Back to the Frasier podcast, Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs. Again, I'll try and put links to my Facebook, Twitter, blog, etc. somewhere in that part of the screen, in this area. And yeah, follow me if you like. I have no idea if you're watching, if you appreciate this. If you don't like it, you think I'm a drunk idiot or a fat fuck or a douchebag or lame or whatever, let me know. Any feedback is good feedback. It helps me become a better whatever I'm doing. YouTuber, I guess, is the current title of this particular endeavor I'm on. See you next time. I'm done for the evening. I'm gonna, keep drinking, but I'm done recording Kevin Smith things. So I'll see you next time with probably a Mallrats video, and I'll be moving on to the next personal thing of mine, which is going to be Violence in Schools, a screenplay that I wrote after Ethan Alexander, which is a couple videos ago. So thank you, Kevin Smith, if you ever see it, and thank you to anybody else who's watching. I appreciate you. I love you. And good night.